had to rethink our production scale and, what it means to produce, even though we're using sustainable fabrics. But if you're producing at with large quantities, I feel like it's not sustainable anymore.
And I think now with the new generation, it's more a holistic view. It's in all levels of society. It's not only about sustainability. It's not only about quantity. It's also about quality of life.
To understand every impact that you can make, and of course on your consumer behavior, the people you're following on social media. So also when you're giving your like on Instagram, you're also endorsing a certain speed.
And we need to realize we're all part of that same ecosystem. So with everything we design, we use in our daily life, we need to understand that you cannot just let it disappear.
Just when fair and sustainable industries start to gain more awareness, the COVID-19 pandemic has been the common enemy for the world economy. In a way, people's awareness on the importance of taking good care of the earth seems to be increasing, especially with staying at home means an easier lifestyle to be combined with minimalism. But what will it mean for the long term? Especially with the movement amidst the creative industry itself towards fair and sustainable industry. And after all, is sustainability only about environmental issues, or there is much spectrum to understand? Today, I, Subkhan J, Hakim, Managing Editor for DEWI Magazine, and also Chief Content Officer for Jakarta Fashion Week. Joining with me here is Yolande Melsert, Head of Culture and Communication and Netherlands Embassy to Indonesia. We also have Auguste Soesastro, the designer from the brand Wastu Studio from Jakarta. The last but not least, we have Ista Boszhard, co-founder of Textilelab, and also Beatriz Sandini, concept developer for Textilelab. Hi everyone, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to 4 p.m. Talk. So how is staying at home situation so far for you all? Maybe we could start with Yolande.
Yeah, I think we're getting used to the working from home situation. We have a team of 14 people working from home. But on the other hand, we are, as Erasmus Huis, we are closed since half March. And we have no artists coming over, no exhibitions, no shows. And well, that's hard, I think. And so working from home is felt like a temporarily period. And we are very eager to work together again. Though I think there are some changes in our thinking about how we will deal with our Erasmus Huis or with our work in the future.
Okay. How about you, Ista and Bea?
Well, I think we are a creative research lab, which means we really have a physical lab with a lot of machinery. People working there, so that is really difficult to do the hands-on research. So we need to find really ways of very strong time slots that one person, two people at the same time can work here. And I think we kind of manage, but just to have the brainstorms and really this creative environment to do your work, that is sometimes I think what we really miss from home.
Okay. And August, how is it? How is it going?
Well, I've always worked from home, so it's not much of a change, except for, now we meet less people and all the meetings are done with all these Zoom and, WhatsApp calls, which I do like because we save so much time in Jakarta, without the traffic and all the waiting. It's very effective, actually.
Okay.
That's what I meant with we are going to make some changes, because being in the traffic for an hour to meet each other for an hour and then being back in the traffic, that I think we can do a lot on Zoom and MS Teams. But personal contact is really important, I think, if we want to be creative, especially.
I do agree. I really agree about that. Okay, I would like to start with the first discussion. I would like to ask to August, Ista, and Bea. When we talk about the pandemic, of course, it has impacted all of us, and not only about economic, but also socially. What happened behind the scenes at each of your institution? Maybe we could start with August.
We've had to rethink our production scale and, what it means to produce, even though we're using sustainable fabrics. But if you're producing at with large quantities, I feel like it's not sustainable anymore. And this is becoming a problem, I think, for me personally, because now with this whole situation, we have so much backstock, and it's it's going to be a financial issue, I think.
Okay. How about you, Ista and Bea?
Yeah, I think Ista already mentioned a bit in the beginning that for us was really hard, of course, not to have the human touch, but then especially even more not being able to use physically the space. We had for almost 3 months that the lab was fully closed, and then now we are back, but we are facing a second wave. So again, we have a lot of restriction, and then shifting from this physical space into everything online. For certain projects it works, and for others it doesn't. So it's a big year of adaptations and facing for each different project that we work with, we can adapt in a certain way. And certains just had to be postponed because we really needed to be physically present on the same place. So it's a bit, how is it going?
Okay, talking about sustainability, I do believe the sustainability issue is not only about environmental issue. There is a wider spectrum about this, from ethical working conditions for workers, circular economy, recycling or repurposing materials, to developing biomaterials. And I believe everyone could take part. Do you agree with this? And on which spectrum are you working with the issue? I would like to ask to Ista and Bea first.
Yeah, first of all, I fully agree. So often there is this very limited understanding of sustainability, but I think within the Textile Lab and the projects we work on, we really look at the full spectrum and also how they all relate to each other. Because of course it's such a huge industry. So we really look at materials, processes, tools, techniques, culture, systems. So the moment you also develop a material, let's say, it has impact on the way it's made, it's used. So it's like we have different entry points to really keep also questioning what we actually research and what we see as a possible alternative.
Okay. And how about you, August?
Well, when we started, when we launched this brand, we partnered with an industry giant in Indonesia called Pan Brothers, and they produced so much imported software that we decided we were only going to use waste if we were to produce clothes with them. But now I think the next step is to educate the consumer, because we have I think the problem with fast fashion now is the consumer mindset. Everyone feels like they need to keep buying clothes, and nobody knows, I think, especially in our generation now, nobody knows how to take care of clothes, nobody mends clothes anymore, and people are, they want an Instagram presence, so they always want to wear something new for their photo feeds, and that's really not necessary, because even the Queen of Denmark recycles her clothes, so why should normal people like us wear something new every day? It's ridiculous.
If I can add to that, I think we fully agree. It's also understanding actually the value of clothes and the making, and to understand what the real price actually is. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot about understanding different behavior, revaluing.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I guess we have really two different approach here. From August as maybe to more clothes that could be wear like 10 to 20 years, and maybe Ista and Bea is more about understanding full spectrum of the sustainability issue on this point. I would like to go to Yolande. Yolande, I do believe the sustainability issue in the Netherlands is already leveled up to more advanced discussion. Could you share a bit about the ongoing discussion that happened there right now?
Yeah, what you mentioned in the first place, of course, is lasting for at least 20 to 30 years already, discussion with mostly environmental discussion. And I think now with the new generation, it's more a holistic view. It's in all levels of society. It's not only about sustainability. It's not only about quantity. It's also about quality of life. It's about poor and rich people and bridge the gap between that. It's about electric cars, about no plastic, use of plastic bags in. So it's getting, I think the pandemic also helped this in a way to be more aware of how we build our future and how we want to build our world. And yes, the Netherlands government decided to focus on this because it's also about building sustainable relationship between people. And we see that for example, the development of internet divides people into groups, being in their own bubble, much broader than only the environmental part of it. Yeah.
No, sorry, just if I can add to that, because as Yolande is saying, there's also this kind of a split, let's say, of groups. So that the one hand, there's such a urge and such a question coming from companies, the students, citizens that, or consumers that want something different. And also if we look at the goals of the government to really move towards circular economy. And at the same time, you see also during this pandemic that the first people they fire in the bigger fashion companies is actually people working on the sustainability department. So there's really this strange friction, but it definitely shows the urgency of rethinking this system and this industry.
I agree with you. This is quite ironic, right? And I guess in Indonesia, sustainability is sometimes misguided as only environmental issue, and even worse, it sometimes become a very sexy promotional campaign for marketing. To increase awareness about this issue, what kind of program that Erasmus Huis could offer, and on which spectrum Indonesians should understand towards sustainability issues? I would like to ask to Yolande.
Yeah, of course, if we put sustainability on the agenda as the Netherlands, we also have to put it on the agenda at Erasmus Huis, of course. So we took the decision that if we involve in project, we always look at this part. What sustainable part does it have on people, on environment, on mentality, on everything? So it's a way to work on this mentality change that is so needed to build a better world. So, for example, it's in smaller and bigger things, but we have, for example, these sustainable cups. We work with musicians and not for one time asking them to come over to perform, but to build on a relationship. We are thinking over bringing people in, how or can we do it online, because we proved last month that there are a lot of possibilities online as well. So we are rethinking our program in the Erasmus Huis and our future in Erasmus Huis as well. And I see everybody around doing this. So I think that's the good part. It's of course the bad part that's still about earning a lot of money, or the marketing part of it, or the business, the producing and consuming is still about earning a lot of money. I think we have to switch this towards another point of looking at the world. And yeah.
Okay. I would like to ask to everyone, this pandemic has already changed the world, and did you think this is the right momentum to rethink about fashion industry in general? And do you think this is also a catalyst to speed up change on the industry right now?
My first reaction is yes, because it also shows how vulnerable such a global organized industry is. So to be able to adapt to change or to sudden events, let's say, it's very important to be structured and organized differently. And also look much more on the, let's say, local economy, local products. So I think, let's say, it really shows the urgency, and I hope that is also understood by, let's say, the bigger companies. But I think from the level we work on, and also with the citizens, the designers, the SMEs, I think it's very clear.
Yeah, and especially when you mentioned about this greenwashing marketing strategy, and I think if fashion still sees sustainability as a trend, like a color that it's in season, it's gonna keep still being a marketing tool. But the more the governments and society and citizens, consumers get aware of it and understand that this is a choice on how to move with the industry towards the future is no longer a trend. This needs to be from the creative to logistics to embedded in every single part of a certain brand or a certain company. And then I think research institutes like ours propose this change in many different fronts. So from researching a new biomaterial, but also on how to act to make a systematic change in that sense. And that's a slow process, but that needs to happen in parallel in multiple players, I guess.
Yeah, and to really move indeed away from the concept and to have sustainability as a topic of your story, but really also incorporate it in your business model, the way you use it, the way it's made. So yeah.
Okay, slow but sure, but it should be done right. Okay, the same question goes to Auguste. What do you think about this one?
Well, I think it's a time to be more critical and to question things, which is not, part of the culture in Indonesia. People don't question things. You need to want to know where your fabric comes from. You need to be a bit more curious. And this is the only way that we can sort of promote sustainability. Because if nobody wants to, if people are not, interested in finding out, then there's, sustainability really is an abstract concept. It's like, organic food in Indonesia. Everybody thinks organic is sexy, but nobody really understands what it means. Yeah.
But it also really asks for transparency and for people to be able to understand these things that you're mentioning.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, Yolande?
I think it also, when you have no food, it's hard to question where the food comes from, or if you have, it's all about having the choice to do so. And I think in developed countries, you are obliged to ask these questions. So I agree with Auguste, but there's also, I think it's hard to judge people who do, because you don't know the situation. But I know that for sure that in the Netherlands, where people can ask these questions: where is my food or are my clothes coming from? How do I take my bike, or do I go by car? So you're really obliged to do so. So it's not questioning anymore. It's an obligation, I think.
Yeah, I fully agree. But sometimes it's I know a lot of let's say consumer citizens, people. We all wear clothes, so they really want to make different choices. But sometimes it's so difficult to understand what is a better choice. If something is produced in a fair way, maybe very toxic chemicals are used for the dyeing process, or maybe it has been transported 3 times around the globe. So it's really complex to understand this. And at the same time, so often in the culture, we are approached as consumers, so not as people or citizens. So we are really trained to consume, let's say. So that's also really a culture shift. And I think I know a lot of people that kind of were a bit like, yeah, I gave up. I tried to do good, and again, it turns out there is a scandal. So that's also very complex.
Or that at least feel better if there is one tag in their garment when they're in the shop saying organic cotton. Oh, good, I'm helping something. And it can be organic cotton, dyed in bad ways, sewed in Bangladesh, shipped back to Europe, and
way too much
what
water
does that
used.
mean?
Okay. Yeah, a lot of things maybe people didn't really know right now. Maybe start to questioning every bit of it. Maybe it's gonna help to understand the full spectrum of it. Okay, I would like to go to the next discussion. Sustainable fashion has always been somehow distant, and it's being made for only certain class of people, mainly because the more sustainable, maybe it would be less affordable. Of course, different treatments in its manufacture and fair pricing backed with fair working wage are a big part of it. Even before the pandemic, only a few businessmen can maintain their existence. Has it become an extra burden in the middle of this pandemic to perceive sustainability as luxury? I would like to ask to Ista and Bea.
Yeah, I think the question should be, why so cheap? And why can you buy fashion so cheap? And if you look at the industry and the average price of single garments, it is one of the only industries where this price has been decreasing significantly over the years. And who is paying for that cost? And then this is often, I think, where the discussion should go when we're talking about expensive or luxury sustainability. And also back to what I said about how do we perceive sustainability. If it cannot be a premium tag on your garment. It should be, just presumptions of how you should run the business, and then you start having this change of mindset. And if everyone, I think there is a problem of volume, of course. If you're doing a certain specific dyeing to your garment, that you only have 3 people in the world doing that, that's going to have a price. But if you incentivize that in order to become a norm within a certain process, then also, of course, you're going to get better costs in it. But it's really, I think, looking at the other side rather than,
And also again about value, because I'm sometimes amazed that I'm just really talking for the Netherlands, how much people can spend on a new phone, or when they go to a festival or event, and then they find fashion that is more, let's say, ethical or sustainable. They just don't want to invest in that. So I think there's also a really strange idea that fashion is cheap.
Yeah.
I would like to I would like to ask August about the same questions.
Well, I always question, what is affordable, and I mean, what is an appropriate price tag? I grew up with the concept that, you need to buy something and you invest in it, like Ista said. It's like everything is an investment. I mean, of course you make mistakes every now and then, but at least you have the mindset, and you sort of assess your necessities. Do I really need this? Can I wear this, more than 10 times? Am I still going to like it in a year? And those things are, I think, important when buying clothes. And I don't think sustainability is a luxury. It's not a luxury is something that is not necessary, whereas sustainability is, I think, everyone's concern. So it's not a luxury. It's a must.
I think it's one of the things that should be involved in the education program of children. Just like you said, asking questions is one of the base things children should learn in their schools. To where are things coming from? How does the world acts on food and on fashion and on everything you buy, and why do I buy things? Can I borrow things? It's learning about this. I think this should be done as soon as possible, as soon as a child is. That's, I think, one of the different things between Indonesia and the Netherlands, for example, is that. I know for sure, I don't know at the moment, but I know in the Netherlands, children of 2 or 3 years old are asked, what do you want to wear today? So do you want your red trousers or do you want your blue trousers? Do you want a white t-shirt or do you want a blue t-shirt? And so it's all about to discuss things and and if the child says, no, I don't want the blue one, I want the white one. Oh, why do you want the blue one? Right? So it's asking questions starts very soon. So it should be taken over in the school to make a program to be people, and to just about learning about fake news or how do I get the real information. For example, in the Netherlands, it's obliged to put on the labels if you buy food what ingredients are in this. So it should, and also put in the fashion labels that it comes from Indonesia or comes from India, and if it's organic. And then again, of course, you have to question this because it sometimes it is faked, and it is because it's trendy. So. But in the end, we are all in this together. So let's be honest, let's be transparent, and let's discuss, and let's ask questions. And I think step by step we are getting there. I'm very optimistic. Maybe not in my life, but the next generation.
I really like that you're saying also that we're in it together, because also we're working on a project about making cities circular. So there are different cities in Europe that focus on different materials, and Amsterdam focuses on textiles. And of course, that does not happen overnight. So it's really a project in a long-term plan towards really circular economy in 2030 and 2050. But then we can also say, okay, this is what we have. This is the first step. This we don't know, that we do know. So also being honest about that whole transition process.
I should admit this one. In Indonesia, people still perceiving fashion is something that cheap. The clothes is much cheap. If it is not cheaper, is people not gonna buy it. It is still happen in Indonesia. And do you think? I would like to ask. I would like to ask to August. Do you think this is also a burden for us? For Indonesian to understand about the sustainability issue?
Well, I think this, perceiving clothes as cheap is not just in Indonesia. I think it's in many different places. I lived in the United States. People treated fashion that way as well. I think we're following a very unsustainable American model here. And I think it's time to change, but it's not something that can happen overnight, because I think it's part of the developing mentality, to sort of out with the old and in with the new. You see it in many different countries. It's not exclusive to us, I don't think.
This was a construction that happened throughout many years, that fashion became so cheap and so desirable and so disposable. So it takes many years to deconstruct that. And I think it's from the past 10 years that the sustainability in fashion itself finally got traction. And as you said, it started really as an environmental issue, so really looking on the ecology side of it, and now it's going through the whole spectrum. So, but yeah, we are coming from the Coca-Cola generation and McDonald's, and that went into fashion very quickly. But it's a long time all the way to go on the other side now.
Okay. Of course, it will be, this transformation will cost a lot of pain, I think, because coming from having huge productions and huge stock towards, okay, we make what we use and we reuse, in between there will be falling down a lot of shops, producers, industry, half an industry, I think. So we have to rethink how to reconstruct the whole situation. And that's step by step. I think
it comes also a lot with looking at ourselves and our own ego. I mean, the fashion industry is very much ego-driven. You have this star designer, you have this moment of fame, hardly anyone is credited. So also in that sense, we need to be humble and facilitate this process. And I think also our understanding of what innovation actually is and what development means, as you are kind of referring to already, Auguste. I mean, in the Netherlands, to have this consumer approach, I think we can learn so much also from other countries. And I think in that sense, we need to let go in some parts really of our standing of who is in front in this transition. I think it doesn't work like that. I mean, every country and every culture and every subculture, they have their own knowledge that we really need to learn from. I mean, I think in the Netherlands, we are really not taking care of our heritage and the techniques that we have, or in some more, I think, parts of Europe, maybe even worldwide. I think it's really different per country. So that is something we can really learn from.
Okay. I would like to back to with Yolande. You have so many programs around this topic. I mean, sustainability issues, and but how Indonesian audience right now receive it? Has it going really well for you?
Well, of course, in reaching out, you see that it's a certain group of people who is interested in these kind of things, and it's in Indonesia there's a growing middle class group, and as Erasmus Huis, we have 25,000 followers, for example. So we are in discussion with them, and they come to our performances and exhibitions. And I think it's being aware of the fact that within the discussion and within reaching out to each other, we solve the problem together. And I like what Ista said about being open and be aware that we have some experience, but people in Indonesia have also the experience, and to combine this and see what we can do together in this. So it is an issue that should be talked about, and to find solutions and to share experiences. I think that's important.
And in the end, we're all human beings, and in general, I think for human beings, it's just very hard to change.
Yeah, we should adapt with change, right? Okay. I've seen some programs from Ista and Bea. One of your programs really stood out for me. It is the Bio Shades. Could you tell us about the program?
Yeah, so BioShade started around 5 years ago, and it's a research track, let's say, that really focuses on alternatives for the chemical and harmful processes that are used, of course, for dyeing, and also the dyes themselves. So I like to share the story. The other, let's say, partner in crime, co-founder Cecilia Raspanti, one day walked into the lab with another colleague, Nina. We have a lab for biology and biodesign and bioart. And there was an artist working with bacteria that produce pigments. So she was making watercolors. So suddenly Cecilia was like, oh, what happens if we put this on textiles? So they just started experimenting, and it turned out that it's actually light fast, wash fast. So it kind of fits the industry standards. So that became a research project. I can also show you a little. But of course, you cannot tell the bacteria they will grow on the fabric. But of course, you cannot tell them go left or go right. So this is kind of the patterns they can produce.
Nice.
And this became a whole research project, but to also question, is it scalable? But is that actually what we want? Can we work in a more distributed manner? So at this point, it's really a worldwide research project, and so many people tapped into it. We found out that other people were working on this already as well. So it's chemists, engineers, designers, all really working together on this research.
And yeah, I think it's really questioning, where does the colors come from? And this is also the whole wave of natural dye gaining a lot of new adepts and people experimenting. And then imagining the bacteria as one of the existing life forms that are all over us, was here way before us. And they are also producing color and pigments. And that we can also use that as a partnership of creation. And by just allowing the bacteria to grow together with the fabric is when it produces the pigment, and that gets embedded in the fibers. But it's really a new way of thinking of it, because when you look in the shop at that certain thing, it's blue, pink, yellow. You don't realize what does it mean for them to be those colors, because we're just now in the concept that everything is chemical. You just put a formula somewhere and it's gonna print you that color. And this is not the history of color and or a history of dyes and pigments. And it's nice to understand that this can come from so many different sources in nature, and even sources that you would tend to avoid, like the bacteria, for instance. And these are, of course, non-harmful bacteria. They're all friendly bacteria, but still you need to grow them in a
I just
safe
wondering,
way.
maybe in the future, maybe we could see that the material being used everywhere. I mean, like this is maybe something that's quite futuristic for me, to see the bacteria develop some pattern and some color that maybe it's not always the same. Maybe it's always a different patterns, right?
Exactly. Also, and that's actually the nice thing, that it also questions, why do we think in these strict formulas? I mean, yellow is yellow and it always needs to stay yellow even after 10 years if you still have it. But why is not the fading of the colors maybe really beautiful? It can make it unique. And also, since we work with a lot of other people in other countries, everybody in this process deals with other problems. I mean, different temperature, different humidity, different resources that you have around you. So that makes it also interesting to see, okay, we are globally connected and we share all the information, but locally we have our own way of working and also own way of producing and doing the research.
Okay. I would like to ask to August. Textiles are also an integral part on Indonesian culture. And if we look to our tradition, most of it is a slow fashion product that could be passed on by generations. What kind of learning that Indonesians should take on that?
Well, I come from a family of batik makers, but they stopped making batik in the 1940s because, I mean, it fell out of trend. You know, with the influx of Western clothing, people didn't wear, you know, not as many people wore the sarong anymore for formal occasions. People, you know, the public was more interested in conforming to imported clothing. So this sort of wiped out that industry at large. I mean, the traditional cloth is very sustainable because you can pass it on because it's size free, and most of it has been, you know, it's very slow fashion. A good batik takes over a year to make, actually. And I remember my grandmother discussing the price of 2 pieces of batik cloth can be exchanged for a car in the 30s or 40s. So it cost a lot, you know, and that really fell out of fashion. But if we look at, you know, places like India where people still wear the sari, it's because I think they're very proud of their cultural heritage, and Indonesia, I think, needs to learn how to, you know, about being more proud. We need to be more proud of our cultural heritage, because we've gone through so many periods of colonization. You know, even in the late 20th century, you know, we had. No offense to the Dutch. I mean, after the Dutch left, and then we had the Japanese, and then we had, you know, the American colonization, and, you know, Arabization, and the Chinese sort of invasion, and we've had everything, and that's why we're very confused about who we are now. But I think we really need to dig deep into, you know, our cultural roots, and go back to traditional wear if possible. You know, modernized, of course.
So that's also a reason why maybe you always try to develop a silhouette that maybe representing Indonesian clothing, Indonesian tradition, somehow Indonesian silhouette, or maybe how Indonesian do their clothing somehow.
Well, we try as best as we can, but, you know, we also have to understand that Indonesian clothing came from somewhere else. Yeah. That's what Indonesia is. It was always a melting pot and a trading post. Everything originated from somewhere else. But a lot of Indonesians are very culture proud in that way, and they don't want to admit that something was influenced from a different culture. They want to think it's original. Yeah.
Ista and Bea, maybe you want to add something?
No, I just, when you say that being proud of your heritage, it also, we have an artist in resident at the moment, Teresa van Tuyver, and she really looks into traditional traditional Dutch clothing, and it's so interesting the things she finds really from the techniques, the materials, but also how they really became pieces that you hand over from generation to generation, and how indeed extremely sustainable it is.
Yeah.
So I just to say that I fully agree, and
I want to add something as well. I ask a question to August. Don't you think that at the moment Indonesia is rediscovering its heritage in this way? I have the feeling that there's a lot of interest from Western countries for batik or the historic skills and methods. Don't you think that it would be a good opportunity to take this old heritage skills and techniques to reboost it? And I think there will be a lot of interest in this.
Well, I hope so. But I think we need a lot of help in that department, especially from maybe the Dutch government. A lot of our batiks are in the Tropen Museum, like my great-grandmother's creations. There needs to be some sort of perhaps exchange to bring them here sometime, but also to teach the museums here how to preserve them, because we don't have a good system or good funding for the museums here.
I can tell you something about this. The Netherlands to advise on colonial objects and collections being in the Dutch Museum. So they also talked with Kim Dikwood how the Netherlands and Indonesia can work together in bringing back the objects or textiles maybe that should be here, and also with a research project and with trainings on museology and things like that. So we're working on this, and hopefully this will turn out right. Yeah,
fantastic.
We will great to hear that from you more. I mean, that's a really great opportunity to start with between the countries. Okay, the last question for this discussion, what could we expect from sustainability movement around the globe in the future? What is the most important matter to start with right here, right now? I would like to ask with Yolande.
Well, I think I already said, I think education is basic in this. To teach our children how to treasure the world, how to deal with each other, with other people, with things they should be proud of their own heritage. Well, it all starts with education and to treasure what we have and what our history is and what our future should be.
Okay, Ista and Bel, maybe you could answer the question also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think there can be one specific topic to start with, but as Yolande say, I think it's education, but also as a citizen to understand every impact that you can make, and of course on your consumer behavior, but also on your political choices, on who you're putting into power, the companies you're gonna get closer to, the people you're following on social media. So also when you're giving your like on Instagram, you're also endorsing a certain speech. So is this person aligned with your values, or you just like their looks? And I think every single action needs to move forward towards this envision of a sustainable future as well. And but one specific item, I think we mentioned many different paths. I think it's very hard to choose because, for me, it's really an ecosystem of all things that needs to happen in parallel and together.
And for me, it's also important because often we have the discussion also in projects we need to convince the big players. And I think more and more we really just need to connect with the people that are actually doing it worldwide with our local communities. So really go where the energy is, and then at some point the others need to transform and follow. I think then in that sense we can really set up very sustainable networks and really that to foster collaboration as well. And I wanted to say something else, and it slipped my mind. I leave it. That is something that I find so strange. I just remember as a child, and also going to when I was studying, we were never really taught the content, let's say, or explained like we are part of one ecosystem, and the models that were shown to us were so linear. And if you put something in the trash, where does it go to? And just to understand that we have an urgency that we really share, and we need to realize we're all part of that same ecosystem. So with everything we design, we use in our daily life, we need to understand that you cannot just let it disappear, the fabrics or the dyes or the whatever you use. So yeah, I think that realization and the questioning.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Auguste, you want to add something?
Well, I think, ever since the pandemic happened, nobody realized how quickly interconnected we are. You think, oh, it's just happening there, it's not going to reach us. But, wait, in 2 weeks, it's here, and no one realized how connected we are. And I just think we just need more empathy at the moment, because to realize whatever we do has we reap what we sow, basically. And you throw something here, it might end up in the other side of the world. So, somebody else throwing something else might end up in your beach. So just, I guess you have to be more empathetic in life. So.
And of course, I want to add that we need role models in this. I think you were talking about the Danish queen wearing. So our queen was wearing the same dress in a different color. She recolored it, and it was mentioned several times in the newspapers. And I think that's very important because a lot of people buy things in vintage stores, and a lot of people don't, of course. So if role models are giving the good examples, that will help. So maybe, and what I like about Indonesia is that in official meetings, everybody is wearing batik. Jokowi is wearing batik all the time. That is really important to emphasize the proud of a country. And yeah, I think that helps as well.
Okay, I do believe everyone is really connected, and everything that we throw away, maybe it's somehow it end up to another people. And yes, this pandemic is, I guess, we need better understanding to how we connected each other, and we need to empathize on everything that we have right now. Okay, I guess this is the end of this discussion. Thank you everyone for sharing your insight for us. And if you want to know more insight from Erasmus Huis, please visit netherlandsnu.nl, and also get to know more about Wastu at www.shopwastu.com, and Ista Boszhard and Bea at wag.org, and also Textilelab. If you want to know more about the magazine and Jakarta Fashion Week, you can visit us on our social media, website, and application as shown below. Stay safe and see you on our next 4 p.m. talk episodes. Thank you very much.